China cancels its COVID-19 testing and quarantine requirements for international arrivals. Will we see revenge spending on tourism, both inbound and outbound? What does the removal of some of China's most stringent travel restrictions mean for students and business people? For more on this, I'm joined today in Phoenix, Arizona by Adrian Gomez, president of Middle Kingdom Wrestling. In Suzhou, we have Evelyn Li, undergraduate student at Cornell University. And in Beijing by Domche Cabrel, graduate student at the Central University of Finance and Economics. Welcome, guys. So Adrian, let me start with you. You went back to the United States for Christmas and the New Year. How often have you traveled back and forth between China and the United States before the travel restrictions were lifted? And what was it like?
Regarding your question, I prior to the pandemic, I try to go back to America at least once a year. So probably usually around like January, I'd go back. And this recent time that I've been back was the first time since 2020.
Finally, it's over. How do you feel about that?
Oh, a huge relief. Look, I don't necessarily, I wasn't necessarily totally like against the idea of zero COVID. Of course, China had a huge population, so I understood that just to allow put everybody in a situation. Because I remember when we were in China in the initial lockdown, we got to see the outside world, and it didn't look very good. I remember being in China and looking at the way the pandemic was outside in America, in India, and several other countries. We were quite worried. So I could understand, for a while why we were doing the zero COVID. But yes, eventually we did start, once we saw that the virus was, I guess the new variants were becoming a little bit more, I guess, let's say less deadly, more asymptomatic cases we were reading. So when the virus policy essentially was lifted, I have to say I was really relieved, especially in my line of work. It was very difficult.
I asked about your line of work, which is wrestling. Sounds fantastic. Let's talk about that later. But Evelyn, welcome to the Hub. You enrolled in Cornell University in 2019, just before the pandemic started. There were travel restrictions, first of all, in the United States. Learning turned online, and then later on, the United States opened itself up. What was it like, having this pandemic spanning through much of your academic life for your undergraduate studies?
Yeah, so first, thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be here. So to introduce myself, I'm a senior student right now, and COVID hit when it was 2019. So that was when I was a freshman student. And so it was the second semester, and I remember when it just hit, everyone got the news and we were all really shocked, and everyone bought the first plane ticket they could get to fly back to China, for me back to Beijing, because that's where my family were. And so I spent a total of 1.5 years going to university on Zoom. So we took classes at Cornell on Zoom, and what was really challenging at the time was the time difference. So for me, I had to stay up till 1 or 2 a.m. every day so we could attend the synchronous lectures, because we still didn't want to miss out on the in-class discussions with our peers and with our professors. So for that, my sleeping schedule was a mess during that time. But apart from that, like a plus side, an unexpected surprise that we had was that for Cornell University, luckily we had a partnership program with Tsinghua University and Peking University. So we got to actually stay in the dorms of Tsinghua and Beida, and we got to take some classes of theirs offline. So of course, there were many challenges, but there were also some unexpected surprises for us.
Right. And then now the quarantine requirements, testing requirements were lifted. Did you talk to your classmates, your juniors, 学弟学妹, and how do they feel about the prospects of being able to travel freely finally and going to campus?
Yeah, everyone is very excited about the opening of the traveling restrictions, because prior to that, for example, last summer, last winter, everyone stayed in the US because the quarantine time was just too long. But now I think a lot of people will be traveling to China during winter breaks and summer breaks. So we're all very excited for this news.
Domche, let me turn to you. I didn't expect that we could meet again so soon. What jersey are you wearing, by the way?
I mean, like, I actually just finished training in the morning. So, like, that's the Cameroon jersey. Like, yeah.
A maroon jersey.
Yeah, the Cameroon jersey I'm putting on right now. Yeah.
Very good. So you were in Qatar watching the 2022 World Cup. First of all, tell us what was it like? And then maybe you can also tell us what was the quarantine like? Because you were one of the last batches of people who had to endure the quarantine requirements, before it got canceled.
Yeah, I mean, like, getting to Qatar was like a dream come true for me because, like, I breathe football, I live football, I love football. Football is just about me.
Yeah, I watch your videos. Fantastic.
Right? So, like, getting to Qatar was something I didn't plan, but happened super sudden, and I was really grateful for it. I went there, like, not only for watching, and I also went there for some, content production, social media videos that I was shooting as well with some partners. So, like, it was great getting to Qatar and, finding a diversity. It was a really, really long time. I didn't meet a lot of people from different parts of the world coming all together and having a fest around football, because football brings a lot of cultures together, brings the spark from all about the world together. So it was amazing. Talking about the quarantine now, it was something crazy because I actually left Qatar immediately after the semifinals because I was hoping, not to get quarantined for Christmas. So it was coming. Like, I was like, okay, probably I'm going to be out before Christmas. I didn't want to be locked up around that time. So I came back, and just days after, I was just watching some news about China lifting up its, quarantine policies, and everything was going to be open again. I was like, probably I just had to
You were
stay
in the hotel quarantine while you watched the news?
Exactly. I was in the hotel. You remember, right? The day we met, I was like telling you, I was actually one of the last batches to undergo the quarantine process. So it was something I was like, okay, no problem. Still, I made it, and I still made it. It was actually reduced from 8 days to 5 days, which was a blessing as well for me. So overall, it was good. Very happy China finally got open again because I'm a person that loves traveling. I'm a person that loves adventures, and I feel like I still got a lot of things, a lot of places to visit in China. So, like, I'm super grateful as well.
Great, great, great. Adrian, you currently manage a pro wrestling organization in Shanghai. I know you previously had a wrestling venue in Harbin in Northeast China as well, but they closed due to financial reasons during the pandemic. What was it like? I mean, how hard was it to manage a business back then during the pandemic?
Well, pro wrestling is obviously it's a close contact sport, and Harbin, I would say, had a bit of a hard time throughout the whole pandemic. I would say there were times where Harbin was one of the only cities that was locked down because of an outbreak. So we had a really nice pro wrestling. We called it like MKW Pro Wrestling School, and unfortunately, a lot of students that would come to Harbin, because we had the only pro wrestling school in all China. Pro wrestling in China is still an emerging business, an emerging market. So if you look for wrestling in China, like on Baidu, if somebody who's interested in learning, they want to look for, Shuai Jiao Xulian or Lianxi or whatever, they're going to find our school. Unfortunately, for a lot of people who came up, a lot of times we couldn't train. We were located in a shopping mall, which is one of the places, as I'm sure as you know, one of the first places that will be closed during a lockdown. So after sustaining so many months and cumulative in lockdown, we really had to make some cost-cutting measures. Us, and along with a lot of other businesses in the same industry, whether it's wrestling or combat sports like Muay Thai or MMA, a lot of my partners and friends in the industry, they had to make some cutbacks as well. One of the ones we made was, unfortunately, to close the center we had in Harbin.
So, Evelyn, let me turn to you. You started your own business too, right? While you're studying in Cornell. Tell us more about that.
Yes, so in 2020, me and a couple of my friends at Cornell, we started an education platform. So this was a platform where we connected some college students to high school students, and we provided tutoring and mentorship for them for IB and AP, which are like international high school programs. So with that, I mean, during the COVID times, we had to shift our operations and marketing strategies from a offline oriented to a more online oriented strategy. So that was definitely a challenge we had to face. And since we had our classes originally offline, when there were COVID, like at times where a student might have came into close contact with someone who was positive and had to undergo quarantine in their compound, that was when we realized we had to shift our classes via Zoom. And I remember what was the most challenging for me was when I had a class where a few students had to be in quarantine, so they were on Zoom, but the other students were still offline and they came to my classroom to learn. So we had a class both offline and online at the same time simultaneously. And I guess that got us to shift our operation strategy to be able to design classes that were also suitable for online students to like engage them in activities that were both like on the computer and also offline. So I guess with the COVID restrictions, that got us to be able to be more flexible in terms of our strategies.
And then with China relaxes its COVID policies and traveling requirements, how do you plan to adjust and adapt your business strategies going forward?
Yeah, so originally when we weren't able to travel as freely, well, we would do the workshops all online. And now being able to travel, we're planning to go to different cities to give talks, give workshops for parents offline. And I guess that will have a better effect because the parents that we're going to attract, they're going to be more engaged with us. They're going to meet us in person, talk to us about our company.
Alrighty, good luck for that. Domche, you appeared in a Chinese talk show called Informal Talks, right? And now you have your own platform where you post about dance, sports, soccer, and your adventures in China. And of course, you're still a student. What's your plan for the future?
I mean, like this is actually a huge question for the meantime. You just talked about like the talk show in which I am still taking part. You know, coming back to the COVID effect, it has really much affected me on this because when I started the talk show, it was about like, you know, sharing culture. It was about talking about my experiences in China and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I got like stuck like some episodes of the program. I wasn't able actually to take part in. So that was really an issue for me. About my personal platforms, it's still the same thing. I'm just trying to promote and just try to empower people through what I do. There would be sports, there would be dancing, there would be cultural sharing, because that's something I actually do. And my major is actually financial journalism. So that's like I'm in my second year, like graduate, like master's. So I'm almost done already as well. So my program or my, you know, mission, or I can say my plans for the future, I just, you know, getting more into the communication, or I can say cultural field, and trying to like diversify the people around me, creating more and more, you know, platforms or information about what I do to other people who might need it here in China or around the world as well. So that's like one of my greatest missions for the year 2023, getting more and more professional in what I wish to do in the future.
Yeah, what I heard was really you're passionate about the intersection between sports, art, and you know, media.
Exactly, because like, you know, like I always, you know, my first understanding of social life, it's first about what it's about sports, because there is nothing that brings people together like sports. I didn't need to know where you're from. I didn't need to know what color you are. I didn't need to know what language you speak. Of course,
that brought us together in the gym last week. That
exactly,
I
right? We
didn't know
just
you
met
would
in
be
the
on my
gym, and like
show
because of
the
football,
week
we just
after.
like, right. That's the
I had
thing.
no
Sports,
idea.
great sports, and another thing is dancing as well. Let it be social dancing, because I do hip hop, I do popping locky, and I do like kizomba, social dances. So I do a lot of these stuffs, and it's something that really brings people together. And bringing it into communication is just the perfect match, you know. So that's the kind of stuffs I'm actually trying to merge up together and seeing what it can bring to us in the future. Yeah.
All right, Evelyn, how do you plan to leverage your educational background in both China and the United States? And really, what do you plan to do after you graduate, as graduation is coming up soon, I guess?
Yes, I'll be graduating in the May of 2023, so that's just half a year from now. And right now it's still uncertain for me. I am applying to graduate school and I'm also applying for full-time jobs and I'm preparing for interviews right now. So I guess I'm glad to see where life is going to lead me.
Yeah, but what do you look forward to the most as we, gradually get back to pre-COVID life as we know it?
Yeah, I guess it's just the flexibility of being able to travel no matter if I'm going to pursue a graduate education or if it's continuing in the industry, that no matter what, the travel restrictions being lifted open will definitely be a helpful thing for the both of the situations.
Yeah. Domche, what about you? What are you most excited about as we are getting back to the life as we know it?
Yeah, I mean, like my approach is pretty similar to Evelyn's. I just feel like the flexibility and everything that's going to be the greatest part of this. And, because I'm looking forward to traveling a lot for football competitions because before like the COVID, I used to travel around China and I also had to go to other countries like Korea for some football trials. So I feel like, with the lifting up of the restrictions and stuff like that is going to let me, to be more flexible, to be more, unpredictable in stuff I could do as well. And after my graduation, I'm pretty blurred about the exact path I'm going to take it, but I'm super excited about the uncertainty of this because, just go with the flow. And that's just what I'm looking forward to.
Adrian, what about you? You're coming back to China soon, right?
Yes, I'll be coming back to China in a few months. And what am I most excited about in living in the, I guess you could call it a post-COVID policy? The sky's the limit. I really believe that. I think a lot of us have been waiting for this for a long time, and for good reason, because I think now we really feel more than ever that COVID is it's definitely always going to be here in some capacity, but living our life around, basing our life around it like we used to, definitely seems like something that's more in the past than in the future. And with that being in the past, we can actually think about our future and our plans and how we aim to reach our goals and be more successful.
Sky's the limit, and let's live the life. Happy New Year to all of you, Adrian, Evelyn, and Domche. Thank you so much for being part of today's discussion. I wish you nothing but the best for the year 2023. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much for having us on.
New Year.
All right, that will do it for this edition of The Hub on CGTN. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy New Year. See you again soon.